up? This is the Hour Time with Troy By, and I believe this is going to be episode 85. It'll come out, actually, I think next week. I'm kind of running it close right now. I don't really have anything in the can, but that's fine. I got a bunch scheduled for October, and this is kind of a cool. This is the episode. This is the kind of episode where my goal is to kind of tell these stories of North Alabama. And the people, and then it's also the degrees of separation. So just as a real quick primer, I want to have you guys introduce yourselves as well, but just from my perspective, Adam is Ethan Woodruff's boss at work. Essentially, right? Yeah. And Ethan Woodruff was my episode 27. He came on to talk about the zoo, and I found out about Ethan through Launch 2035 and some of these economic development things that go on here in Huntsville. And then actually, the episode before that, John Allen, who's the CEO of Community of 100, he works out at CF Invigorate, Cross Fit Invigorate.
Right.
That's right.
And that's where Dusty is a member, right? And an instructor.
From time to time.
From time to time. So, you know, about over a year ago, he says, hey, you should really, interview these guys or talk to them. And I was like, well, I don't have 4 extra microphones. Yeah, I do, but my studio's not really big enough for that. And so we kind of exchanged some emails, Dusty and I, and then just, it's fine. It didn't really work out at the time. That's okay. And then, you fast forward, and I think, so the Reaching for the Bars podcast is essentially what Dusty's a part of, and 3 other gentlemen, one who owns CF Invigorate, I believe.
Yeah, part owner, yep.
Part owner. And then Adam is, has a day job, of course, and you have a day job. You work for the Builders Group.
I do, yeah.
But then you guys together have the Mish Mash Men podcast.
That's right. Correct.
And my assumption, this is where I kind of want to start as far as the introduction. My assumption is you're working out at CF Invigorate. You get to know Dusty. Dusty probably has the bug to do more podcasts than just RFTB, Reaching for the Bars. He starts talking to Adam. Adam's got a voiceover company called Resonance, right?
That's right.
Just got your LLC. And you guys are like, well, maybe we should do our own thing.
Yep.
Separately, right, from RFTB. Is that about accurate?
That's
pretty close.
Yeah, yep. Pretty close.
So, Dusty, if you don't mind going first.
Sure.
Dusty LaBar, and just kind of fill in that story, and then we'll kick it over to Adam, but just a little bit of intro for you.
Sure. How far back do you want me to go?
Oh, not too far back yet.
Okay, that's fair.
We'll get to that other stuff later.
So I moved here about 4 years ago. I started working out at Cross Fit Invigorate. I've been a CrossFit coach for a while, so that worked out pretty well. I started coaching there, and then I also met Adam because we worked out at the same time.
That's right.
Probably
the best class.
The best, yeah. The 5:30 a.m. is unparalleled in its athleticism, comedy.
Comedy, yes.
Comedy. So then me and a couple other guys, it's Mabry, Caleb, and Andrew, and we decided that we should start a podcast. Well, actually, let me tell it right. Me, Mabry, and Caleb decided we should start a podcast, and we kind of brought Andrew on as an executive producer, and then became friends with him. And then as we got moving on, we stuck with it, whether we're stupid or whatever. We stuck with it for a long time, and I had been bugging Adam because
how long's a long time, by the way?
We've been doing Reaching for the Bars for, golly, it's got to be almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Pretty close. And I had been bugging Adam because we wanted to expand the podcast, and we weren't sure exactly how to do that. But Adam has, first off, he's interesting. He's got an awesome voice. Like, he's like almost like the perfect like on-air voice. He's got a lot to say, and we're good friends, and it's easy for us to talk. So I kind of put the bug in his ear, and he didn't really go with it at first.
Right.
But then I think the stars aligned, and he kind of had a couple other people tell him a few similar things.
Yeah.
And then we kind of eventually linked up, came up with a good idea, something that we could both agree on. Didn't take up too much of our time. We could do it, have fun with it, and also put out a good product.
Right. Now, are you guys just talking over at the gym, or are you talking about this stuff? Well, hanging out at night, that type of thing.
So Adam. This is a running joke we have with Reaching for the Bars. Mabry has 2 kids. He's got a lot of stuff going on, so he misses multiple episodes. So the joke is that Adam is really the full-time member of Reaching for the Bars, and Mabry steps in for Adam.
That's right.
But we got Adam on multiple times. He's definitely been on more than anybody. It's not even there's not even a close second. He's been on most times. So we started kind of talking to him. So we talked through text. We talked when we were hanging out, and finally he just kind of he gave into it and said let's get it moving.
All right. So let's let you intro then, Adam, and fill any other blanks that Dusty left out, and then just just otherwise, just a quick intro.
Yeah. So to piggyback on what Dusty was saying, there were several episodes where I was a guest, like Dusty was saying. It was interesting. It was fun. And then he had approached me. I think it was about a year and a half ago.
That sounds right.
Because he was trying to grow, like he said, have a family of podcasts, because that's the way you grow that business. And at the time, I wasn't ready. One, because I was transitioning, or had the potential transition from one job to another. And it wasn't a good time to just, okay, I'm also going to podcast now. That's a great idea. And then and there were several other things going on that I'm immaterial at this stage. And then fast forward to, I guess it was during the winter sometime. That's when he brought it up again. Hey, why don't you and I do it? Because I had another partner that I was thinking about doing it with. He said, hey, how about you and I do it? And then I said, okay, I'm ready. Let's. Here's what I'm thinking. I had a scheme of things that I wanted to do. Are you okay with that? And Dusty was on board 100%. So then it was a matter of, okay, well, we got to come up with a name, and we got to scope it and set our left and right limits, right? So we did that, and formed Mish Mash Men. It's a podcast underneath RFTB, and that's about it. Am I missing anything? Let me add this. So the LLC, the residents.
Hold on, back up just to let the camera adjust. For some reason, it was having a hard time.
I got all excited. So
you did get excited.
Yeah,
that's all right.
So the
hold on one second. Let me just try to stunt this a little bit. Okay, go ahead.
So the residents and the voiceover work was downstream of the podcast genesis. So podcast, and then I continue on, and hey, you got to consider that. One thing led to another, and then I thought, well, let me try it, and then off to the races. Now it's not like this huge business where people are knocking on doors yet. Maybe after this podcast.
Yeah, maybe so.
Maybe so, right?
Yeah, the best part, the thing that we didn't talk about a lot is the enjoyment we got out of coming out with the name.
Oh, yes.
We probably sat in the studio for, I don't even know how long.
Yeah.
I mean a long time. Coming up with
whiteboarding the ideas.
Just coming up with a bunch of different things and deciding which way we were going to go with it. But we ended up landing on Mish Mash Men, which ended up being perfect for what we do.
Yeah, because let me guess, it's a mishmash of topics,
right?
Yep.
And it's also kind of a mishmash of your backgrounds, right? And what you bring to the program.
That's right.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to go with like Renaissance Men, but there are a lot of podcasts that have gone like 6 episodes and they stop.
Yeah.
Polymath, so someone with a variety of interests, which is similar to Renaissance Men. So it was one of those things. It was kind of painful because all these great names were taken, and then so we were literally sitting in that podcast room that you visited, and so hodgepodge. And just looking up, hey, synonyms for hodgepodge, synonyms for this, and then finally he just blurts out, "How about mishmash? Mish Mash Men."
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah,
it's perfect. Yeah.
So let's also give a shout out to Abby, who's in the studio.
Abby, the intern.
And I guess you guys know, no secret, right? She's helping me as well with some clips.
Yeah.
Right.
Part of I used to do this like 10 years ago, and I always wanted to. Part of what makes it fun, whether I ever can turn this into a career, it's doubtful, but it's also fun to allow high school, college student opportunity to cut their teeth and build their resume and, kind of give back. Because that never happened for me. No one was like looking out for me, if you will, when I was this age. So I did it. There was this kid, he was a junior in high school. I used to do play-by-play for high school sports, and this kid was awesome. And Abby's like, this blow you away how talented our youngsters are. Yeah. In the case, this is Adam's daughter. So, and you guys call her Abby the intern.
Abby the intern.
I got some feedback from one of the listeners. They loved Abby the intern as the name, and so what we decided, like, well, whatever intern we have, that intern is going to be named Abby the intern.
Yeah. Well,
period.
let me ask you: were you inspired? I'm assuming you were inspired by certain radio personalities, morning shows, afternoon, evening, growing up type thing, or even now as an adult.
I had a favorite radio show I used to listen to. I was stationed in D.C. for a while, and there was a show. You were in D.C., right?
Yeah.
Don and Mike show.
Yep.
Oh yeah. So I listened to the Don and Mike show on the way home a lot of times, not every time,
1067.
Yeah, 1067. That was an interesting duo. And there were a couple others I won't mention in that DC area that were good and bad. But that's about it. That's not what I mean, I'm sure it feeds into it a little bit.
Well, here's I want to give you some praise first.
Okay.
First, I want to praise the RFTB because same station, the Sports Junkies.
Yeah.
They were on cable access in the 90s. And they were all from Maryland. Hey, I'm from Virginia. I can't stand Maryland, but
Well, to Falls.
Yeah.
Are you a Maryland guy?
No.
A friend of ours is. He's
And I know you're Pennsylvania.
I am Pennsylvania, yeah.
I can't stand Maryland. But they were all from Maryland. They were from like Olney and Upper Marlboro or whatever. And so they just kind of like you guys, right? This was a different day though. The internet didn't really exist, and they're trying to do a cable access show, and then they get picked up by JFK at the time. It became 1067 The Fan later, and they were doing like an evening show with music in the background, and they're young, so they're talking about playing Splinter Cell and just these games and stuff. And then as they get older, they had good chemistry, and they had good chemistry because they knew each other since they were like in kindergarten or first grade, and it wasn't contrived.
Right.
And so, I think your guys' show, you can always tell when it's very forced. And when the hosts don't really know each other. Sometimes Elliot, I remember Elliot in the morning, like he kind of just comes in from wherever he was from, and now but they kept all the other cast members there. I know this is kind of getting like geeky, but it took a while for Elliot to develop a chemistry in DC with the rest of his cast.
Yeah.
To me, I'm just a huge radio enthusiast, in these shows, and you can just parse through that very quickly. And part of that is like sometimes a really good show is this, did they talk about this beforehand, or are they just naturally going off on these topics?
Yeah.
And it comes across very well. So I applaud the chemistry that you have with your boys there.
The funny thing is like when we argue on the podcast, that's real. And then it's the first time we've argued about it, and then we continue the argument after the podcast is over. So we'll argue there's a 3-year argument about a sandwich shop that we can't stop arguing about, and we will get into a serious, it'll be hour-long debates on this kind of stuff. So
Episode 78 or no?
A sandwich shop?
Yeah, so that we had a debate on the best sandwich shop, and Mabry had said, basically what he said was you needed a college degree to work at
a master's
degree to work at Jimmy John's, and it exploded. And probably one of the most the best people always comment about oh, we love your sandwich shop argument, but we were actually mad at each other. We couldn't get off of it for weeks. We were mad at each other
so
about
it's
that.
Basically Jersey Mike's vice Jimmy John's. Yeah. And Jennifer, my wife Jennifer, she doesn't listen to that podcast that much, but she happened to be listening to that episode. She said she had to pull over to the side of the road because she was laughing so hard because Mabry's position was so funny. I'll just say that was funny.
Right.
And it's natural, right? It's not like you put him up to it.
No.
He really believed that and still believes that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
And then for Mish Mash, right? I mean, it's a little different. You guys don't know each other like maybe you did the other guys, but it just works as far as the what you're bringing. And then I think, and then just the branding, just watching the guy with the handlebar mustache over here, the stash of wisdom, and I really, obviously, because I got my own show, but I really pay attention to that stuff, and I can really applaud when it's like, man, you guys are doing it good.
I appreciate that.
Appreciate
doing
that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So I got your thing right here, your Mish Mash. And I love the I don't know, what do you call that? A monochrome style, or just the
Abby, the intern, made that.
You made that, okay.
Yeah.
How long did it take you, Abby?
The main design probably took me a few hours, but once I had their faces were good, probably about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I should have just put her on a headset like you have, but
The way that went about, because Abby's, artistic, and so she made a Father's Day card, and had this icon of me, I don't know if did you hand draw that? Yeah. So she hand drew this icon, and it has my scar I have between my eyes, and it has the mustache and this flamboyant looking hair, and then had all the other kids sign it. It's one of those cards I will keep forever. It's so good, and it was witty, and the icon was good. And I said, hey, she was looking for a project. And I said, would you mind helping us out, because I'd like to get a logo going. Not Abby, but Dusty has a beard. I've got a mustache. It might make a good thing. And I was thinking along the lines of, you familiar with Jib Jab?
Yeah.
Jib Jab, they have that kind of, old-timey looking look. And I think they both have mustache. Anyway, bottom line is something along those lines. And then so she ran with it and came up with that.
Now, have you experimented with the mustache before in your life?
This is an artifact of the quarantine phase.
Okay.
So I never was a facial hair guy. I was in the Army, and it's kind of frowned upon, the mustache. And plus, the way you got to trim it, it just ends up looking goofy anyway, in my opinion. So we're all quarantined, and of course, wives are baking bread. Husband's just growing out hair. It's just out of control. No one's wearing shoes or like any day clothes whatsoever, just wearing pajamas and flip-flops.
Yeah.
And so I started growing my facial hair, I'll say it that way, because I can't grow a beard. But my mustache is okay. So I finally trimmed this off, and I was like, I wonder if the ends will grow out. And sure enough, they started popping out, and they naturally curl up. And of course, I accentuated with the wax. At first, everyone hated it. Everyone hated it. Abby, the intern, she said, when I just had the mustache, she goes, "You look like the guy that's a cop in a movie, and he's a good guy, but he turns out to be the bad guy." But then, give it some time. It grew on them also, and then now I can't get rid of it. I cannot get rid of it.
Yeah.
I forgot to make the point I was going to make earlier about the sports junkies. They always had interns.
Yeah.
And some of them they had a lot of interns working, but some of them would kind of rise to the top, or they clearly wanted to have a career in radio.
Right.
And then they would, there was whoever, Stephanie, the intern. There was always somebody, the intern. And I was wondering if you had kind of just picked up on that from shows that really kind of bring everybody into their cast.
Probably like Rick and Bubba, they're always big into naming their interns. And I think I wanted to keep a little distance because I wasn't sure how she felt about us referring to her on this recording, whether she wanted to be known to be involved as my daughter. So we were just referring to her as Abby, and then, Abby the intern.
Right.
And then it became a thing.
Gotcha. Now, you've always had facial hair, Dusty?
Yeah, I don't even know if my wife, Laura, has ever seen my face without a beard. I don't really know that. I've had it I've had it forever, since I've been in high school. I think I might have shaved it off one time 10 years ago, and besides that, it's been a beard ever since.
Yeah. So I think what's the level of when you're preparing for an episode of Mish Mash Men? Do you just both bring your own topics and then just kind of hash it out? Yeah. That's kind of like a pre-meeting real quick.
Yeah. So we started doing. We would pick a topic, we'd discuss it with each other. We'll discuss it in terms of, hey, I'm going to do this. What do you think about this? And we were doing a little bit different of a style now. That in the past couple episodes we changed it up a little bit, but we would basically pick a topic, do a little research on it, have something to bring to the table. As we got into the episodes more, I'm sure Adam will agree, now the open discussion concept, we kind of lay an idea out and then we can both discuss it, seems to be it's definitely fun,
right?
And also people seem to like that, kind of hear our opinions on certain things versus just like force feeding you facts.
Gotcha.
I had a bit of an agenda going to this, and I told Dusty about this beforehand, before we even agreed to completely do this, because we both agreed, hey, if this isn't going to work out, we need to back out. So here's my stipulations, here's Dusty's, and on it goes. And I wanted to lay some foundation things. So there's a lot of like instructional discussion that I wanted to go over during the podcast. So talking about economics, logic, groupthink, response to authority, those kinds of things. I wanted to kind of lay all that out because it will be drawn on later on. Because that's how I think, and I want to be able to tag into that. Hey, you remember that episode when we were talking about the Stanley Milgram experiments? I want to be able to draw that into the discussion then when we go completely topical. And that's about where we're at. Every once in a while we might do instructional down the road. We're just like, hey, I don't have anything today. What's going on in the news?
Right.
Yeah.
That's fair.
By the way, are you a Ryder Cup guy?
A Ryder Cup?
Like, are you a golf fan?
I'm not.
I heard, I'm not a huge golf fan, but I heard that the U.S. is doing horribly.
Yeah, they're down 6.5 to 1.5. But
oh boy,
I only bring it up because it's just as far as real quick, just with golf. I was just kind of thinking in my mind what's happening today, and you think of like the whole live golf thing and the PGA and I've really come to love the European players. I used to just despise them, but then Rory comes around, and then Jon Rahm, and Rory and Jon Rahm have been two of the most vocal proponents for the PGA Tour. Well, now they're killing us.
Yeah.
And it's like, but I don't hate him as much.
Right.
because of their stance against live. But then like the U.S., man, right, always on paper, there's always this promise, oh, these guys are going to be so great, and they're just getting smoked.
Do you not like live golf?
I don't.
You don't like it?
What is it about live that you don't?
It's
like?
you have to understand. I am a golfer.
Okay.
Like I've competed in golf at a very low handicap. It's more of just I totally understand guaranteed contracts and all that. Can't blame the player. But other than Cameron Smith, Brooks Koepka, Dustin, maybe Bryson, the other guys, fine, go. You're never going to win really on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
I am not a shotgun start guy. So the 54-hole shotgun start thing, there's no drama. I actually was getting slaughtered on a short I did the other day. I was talking about live. And people, I mean, like when it comes to competition, there has to be drama for as a fan to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't feel there's any drama with live.
Okay.
And the point I was trying to make, and I was getting slaughtered, and it's because I didn't really like think about setting up my point. But my point is like when I, as a fan, turn on golf, and it's the 72nd hole, and let's go back to 2008, and Tiger Woods has to make this putt on 18 at Torrey Pines to beat Rocco Mediate, not to beat him, to get into a playoff, to play him in an 18-hole playoff the next day. Well, that's because there was a buildup. They were the last tee time,
Right.
You know, and all the other guys who didn't play well, they're on their planes or they're driving home.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. Live. It's almost like watching NASCAR because they're all kind of out there at the same time, and they've got this leaderboard, and you're like, well, what's going on?
Yeah.
And there's just no buildup. You know, you have like the kid. Let's say there's someone who's never won, and they have to wake up and figure out how do I stay focused until 3:30 when I tee off, and I'm going to be paired with, you know, who knows, Justin Thomas or whoever or John Rahm. Oh, you know, like I just as a fan. That's competition, you know, and whenever any of us who have competed in something, that's part of the mental prep.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I have the hardest time with is just, and the business side of it, they're not making any money. So how long is it going to take them for even to make the money that they're paying some of these guys?
Yeah.
And the other aspect is some of these guys like, who are you? And you're going to get a check. And it's kind of a joke.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Now you guys are proponents for it though?
I'm not a proponent for it. I mean, I do like competition.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's doing it the best way. I kind of feel like they just wanted to, hoping the PGA Tour would buy them out and be done with it and get all of it done. I do like, it's waste management. What's the hole where they gift the
that's PGA Tour.
that's a PGA Tour, right? That's what they should do on every golf course, right?
Full on stadium. That's number 16. There.
Yeah, they build it up. They build up. Have you ever seen it?
No.
They build up these.
It's on Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah, they basically build up a stadium around this hole, and all these guys are just screaming as people are teeing off.
Yeah.
And having I would watch golf nonstop if that was the case, because there's dudes like it's like a football game. The dude was with beach balls and like got 3 Miller Lights, like let's party. So it's.
If you don't hit the green, they'll pelt you with their beers.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And then no matter what, the player will give out tons of like giveaways as they leave the tee box and going up to the green.
I will say this: I am a big fan of competition. I'm a big MMA fan.
Yeah.
UFC, and then there's like Bellator, and there's some other organizations, and those other smaller organizations give people that wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to grow to make it there the opportunity to compete and grow to that.
Right.
So it is
that's like a feeder.
Almost like a feeder. Like in my opinion, the UFC should buy these things as a feeder league, and they used to kind of have something similar to it, but it does give people the chance to compete in whatever their sport is and rise up to the big show if they have the ability to do it.
I get that, and I guess yesterday the XFL and the USFL are gonna join forces.
Yeah, they probably should do that.
Yeah, we talked about that on an episode.
But it's not a feeder though, right? Necessary. I guess it's a chance for guys to be scouted.
It's a second chance,
though.
I think, after college if they didn't make it.
Yeah, typically in that specific scenario, you got undrafted free agents that aren't going to make it.
Yeah,
and it gives them a chance to play. Now, probably some of them are going to get. It's going to draw something out in them, and they're going to make it to the NFL. Probably, most likely. There's just some guys that maybe didn't do so great in college, but they may have some abilities, and it's kind of shown in this thing. XFL and USFL should combine because you're doing the same exact thing and drawing fans from each.
Right.
Because nobody has the bandwidth to be. I'm a Packers fan. I'm also a Renegades fan, and I'm also this fan. Like you're not going to do it. So, they should combine and kind of and basically promote it as a feeder league for the NFL.
Right.
I think it's amazing. I've interviewed people from the Havoc and the soccer team, HCFC, and of course the Pandas, and they're all very different.
Yeah.
As far as I guess the hockey is just completely separate. They don't feed into any sort of NHL affiliate. That the Havoc, from my understanding, it's just the Southern Professional League.
They don't feed into anything.
Now they get reps, right? Obviously, it gives them a chance to play, and maybe somebody had a horrific injury, and they get.
But it's not like sponsored from a major league team.
Oh, interesting.
So
that's interesting.
That's just a chance for them to play. I mean, I think they have jobs.
Sure.
And they tried similar to the baseball where. Budget wise, they have to play. The Pandas have to play 6 games in a row because they're not going to be busing, every 2 days wherever.
Right.
Sure.
They just play somewhere, then they go into the next place, place. And I think with the hockey league, same thing. They play Thursdays through Sundays, and I guess they try to keep it regionally.
That makes sense.
But and then there, of course, Nashville is a little different. Nashville has a lot more say on the full operation of the team versus here, where the Angels are in full operation of the team, but the Pandas are in full operation of like Toyota Field.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But
Makes sense.
yeah. But at the same time, hey, whether I'm a hockey fan or not, I'm going to go because of live entertainment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up in Pennsylvania. We had I guess it was a AAA baseball team and then a AAA hockey, whatever, like the step before the NHL. And they drew a lot of people because a lot of times if a high level NHL or baseball player would come down, they would come play at the minor league team. So everybody would buy tickets because they want to see, this is whoever, and he's playing for, it's right in here. I get to watch him play, and then he's going to go back up, or, maybe he just got drafted, and they're like, this is the next big thing. He's about to go up. So it was a pretty big deal.
Rehab assignments. That's never happened because, we Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout are probably the two of the biggest names in baseball. They both played for the Angels.
Yeah.
But if there's going to be a rehab assignment, they're probably going to go to AAA Salt Lake before they come to AA Huntsville, let alone the distance.
That's right. Yeah.
But, man, this place would go bananas.
That's
right.
right.
It would.
Yeah.
If either of those guys came here.
You wouldn't be able to you wouldn't be able to touch tickets.
I was just talking to Mayor Battle about his career where he built Joe Davis Stadium the first time.
Yeah.
When the Athletics were here, and then of course Jordan comes in as a baseball player with Birmingham, and he was saying, I got to see him play, and then of course now they've renovated it. But I love to ask that. Did you see Jordan? Did you get to see Jordan?
Yeah. He wasn't such a great baseball player.
No. No, he was being nice
time.
in his characterization.
Yeah.
Like he was really quick, but man, he had a really big strike zone. Like
Yeah.
That's right.
That was a weird time.
It was interesting.
You were too young for, I guess, that probably, right?
I mean, I remember it. I don't know. I mean, I guess that was when the 90s.
94.
Yeah, I remember it vividly. I was 7 years old, but I do remember it.
Do you ever have those, like I was just hunting with my son in Ocala, Florida. And like we went hog hunting, and then we went over and we went fishing. And like some place I'd never heard of, Yankeetown Marina. And then lo and behold, that hurricane just blew through and like just blew that place up like the week after we left, right? Or in the case of Michael Jordan, his dad was murdered. I was in that town and probably very close to that 2 days before that happened.
Oh my God.
Really?
And it's just, I think it's like these weird things that my wife just sent me an article of something else. Like I was just there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freaking me out.
Yeah. You're like bringing the bad news.
I'm always like
I'm
always ahead of the bad news. At least I get home and I'm good.
I don't like
let's just
that
check out.
specifically.
Now, what's the name of your hometown again?
Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania.
Tunkhannock.
Yep, Tunkhannock, Pennsylvania. It's a town that nobody knows about. It's very small, but right outside of Scranton, Pennsylvania, which is what the TV show The Office is based
Is that the
out
paper
of.
company?
And I worked at that paper company.
Dunder Mifflin?
Well, basically Dunder Mifflin. Yeah, they
right.
called it. It was called PA Paper Supply, but they had like pictures on the wall when the cast came, and it was based out of that, like that.
That building?
The building, when they pan to that in the beginning intro, that's the building that everybody knows about from there.
You worked there.
I did
What
for a
did you
brief
do?
time. I was inside paper sales. It's not a great job.
Were you like Dwight or Jim?
Well, I guess I probably would have been more like Jim, I would suppose.
I was gonna say.
That's
You
right.
know, I loved. I used to manage this big program, and every now and then I'd have this employee, and I would say, and then to other people, like let's say I was one of my managers, and they're having problems with this employee, and this is always my go-to. I said, you know what the problem is? They've got the Dwight Schrute syndrome.
Yeah.
they think they are the assistant regional manager. But in reality, they're an assistant to the regional manager, because they just basically the idea of when power goes to your head, you just give somebody a little bit, and they just like whoa. You are the assistant to. You know,
you assist me
to whomever. By the way, Abby, do you want a water? If you'd like one, there's one right behind you. Okay. So when do you guys record?
We typically record on Fridays.
Yeah, about now.
And we try to do a couple episodes at a time. So we don't have to do it every Friday. It's just maybe we were doing a handful at a time.
Yeah, we were trying to get, so we had 2 or 3 in the can, but then now we're just staying basically a week ahead.
Yeah.
So is this ruining your schedule for today?
Nope, it worked.
No, we kind of timed it so in prep for this.
Yeah, it worked out well. Yeah.
You might as well just use this too if you want.
And we'll just tag in on this.
You can interview me.
Yeah, I'll start asking you questions, and Abby.
I've already asked 2, so we can cut into this.
Well, I'd love to get your thoughts on the government shutdown. I know I'm kind of surprising you here, but it's possible. I remember, I think it was 2013, and it was funny because Leidos, if you're familiar with Leidos, right? They had this big celebration up in Reston, Virginia, at the Reston Town Center, that they were creating this thing, Leidos, and there was purple everywhere. And the very next day, the government shut down, and then the Reston Town Center was like a ghost town, and it was weird. Like the day before, everyone was all excited, and I didn't work for Leidos, but I worked for L3, and we were near them, and there was all this big celebration, ribbon cutting and pie and cake and all this stuff, and then the next day for however many weeks, like nothing happened, and it was like, this is weird. It'd be like going down to just downtown Huntsville, and there's like a ghost town, and it was odd.
Yeah.
Adam probably has more. I don't really have any experience with government shutdowns, but
I think the shutdown is great. As a taxpayer, I'm in love with it. The Congress has been, they've abdicated several of their responsibilities that they have constitutionally for years and decades. So it's always good if we get to this loggerheads where, okay, nothing's going to happen. One of the good things that's already happened out of this, the Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, has already acquiesced to Matt, like or love him, it doesn't really matter to me, Matt Gaetz, who was insisting, along with his contingent of representatives, no more of these omnibus spending bills.
Yeah.
We're going to do one bill at a time because that's what you should do. The omnibus spending bill, again, my opinion, is an excuse to pile together a bunch of pork spending, and then it's a game that the Congress or that these politicians play. Let's say we're all in this room politicians, and we say, okay, well, I'm going to concede this. We'll do this omnibus. Your district gets this. My district gets that. And then when it comes to election season, when I'm advertising, I can say, well, Troy By, he voted against my bill. You're going to say, well, Adam Mouser voted against this bill. And we just play this little game, and it doesn't really matter to us because we're still going to continue to get voted in office because we're bringing money back.
Yeah.
So at large, I think it's a great thing. I hope more comes of this than just that little, one bill at a time by omnibus. But that's my thoughts on it.
No, I appreciate the insight.
I don't have much information on it. I second what Adam said.
I'm glad. This is the first time I've actually gone through one where I wasn't on a direct bill contract. And my life is much easier because it was always so frustrating. We'd have all these, I think we had 24 sub companies on our program, and to have to communicate out just that, not only to the employees on what may or may not happen and what you need to do, and make sure you listen to the news before you come in.
Right.
Don't come in, until you hear, execute the calling tree. I'm so glad to not have to worry about those headaches.
It's actually funny that you bring that up because a young guy at the gym who just started working for the government.
Oh, that's right.
He
Eli.
was picking Adam's brain. His name is Eli. He was like, they told me I need to go into work, but they're not going to pay me. He's like, do I have to go into work? He's asking all these questions to Adam because you can tell he's worried about it on one hand, but not sure really what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And Adam's trying to help him out and give him the appropriate advice without telling him exactly what to do.
Yeah.
But you can see that he's sweating it a little bit. And then you can see other people who have been through it before. Like there's a lot of people that work for the government around here.
Yeah.
You ask them and they're like, no big deal. We'll just, I'm going to work from home for a week or two and, whatever, and they'll back pay me or, whatever it may be. So they're a little less worried. But I could see as a young kid just out of college, worrying about money, making rent,
It's a new environment for them, and I've got so the project I manage. One, we're direct, so we're not direct bill, so we have a contract. I've got resources. We're going to just work from home. Obviously, there's concern that if this continues, then something drastic might happen. But that might be, again, overall for the country, it might be a good thing. That's neither here nor there. But I asked the question when I was bringing everybody in, had the whole team in there, or 80% of them. Who has never lived through this before, a shutdown or sequestration?
Yeah. And
there were 2 or 3 that raised their hand, and I was like, okay, don't worry. It's not the end of the world. It's things will be okay. In fact, we're better than okay because of that, the contract and the resourcing we have. But it's interesting. The first time that I dealt with this as a non-military guy, I just got hired on as a GS employee, a government employee, out at the flight test center, and within a couple of months, I haven't even accumulated any leave yet or anything, and then all of a sudden we get, okay, well, I think sequestration was the first thing I hit, then a shutdown. But it was just interesting time. So I've already lived through this a couple times. So,
well, you're right, and I remember there was a GS-15 guy I was working with. Actually, this was like 09. It had to have been 09 or 10. That was actually when the long shutdown happened. You know what? There's too many. I can't remember now. It's happened too many times. But that was probably the first one I was going through, and it was just kind of day for day.
Yeah.
But he's like, you know what? I'm in GS-15. I don't care. So he just left, and he went to the Caribbean for 2 weeks, and it worked. Actually, by the time he got back, there was still a shutdown. But for the rest of us, it's like whoa, wait a minute. I don't have that kind of leave. I don't know if I should do that. This may not be a really good idea. It's just kind of interesting though when you're like, yeah, I've been through it, or I'm, a year from being retired. And he was gone.
Yeah. I'm out of here.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Darn right.
Well, the weather's turning. It's nice. Today was a very cool day out there.
Yeah, beautiful day.
So let's turn to the builders group.
Let's do it.
And I think I actually have a little slideshow here, but let me do this. Tell me, Dusty, I want to spend a little bit of time on how long you've been in home building.
Okay.
And tell us about the builders group.
So home building wise, I'm probably for a lot of these people considered like an infant. I was in property management in Myrtle Beach before I moved up here. And a friend of mine, he had an opportunity for a home builder position, and he said, I think you're going to do really good at it. He said, it's just the opportunity was for advancement, really. Start as a home builder. We have some management positions. So I started building houses and moved up here for that job specifically. So the builders group, there's a lot of things for it. So it's a good company, has great owners. They've been in Tuscaloosa for about 20 years. We just recently closed on our 2,000th house. That's a hard word to say. 2,000th house.
I'm with you.
And we've closed a couple since then, but they're a big builder in Tuscaloosa, and they kind of saw the growth up here in Huntsville and decided to open a branch. They want to branch out in a couple things. So we've only been here a couple years, 5 years about. They are a big builder, one of the premier builders in Tuscaloosa, and we're kind of growing up here. We started building in Oakland Springs and Providence. A lot of people probably know Providence, the village of Providence. Same developer in Oakland Springs is basically the same idea. There's shops going in up there. There's a lot of things. Houses are very similar. But now the builders group has kind of reached out into Athens, Limestone County, Elkmont, all those areas. So we just started building out there, and we're trying to get into the market out there. Athens is rapidly growing. We build a great product, and it's just about kind of getting the name out there as we grow up here, trying to do what we did in Tuscaloosa, basically.
So you didn't have a background in construction management before Myrtle Beach?
That's correct. So so I was I had that job in property management. I mean, the management side of things, for people that know, being a superintendent or a builder, it's more babysitting than it is anything, making people show up on time, doing that kind of stuff. So there was a learning curve to it. But once you kind of build a couple houses and get your feet wet, you kind of know what's going on. You may not be perfect at everything, but that's why you have some contractors that know what they're doing, and you can kind of lean on those guys.
So what was the property management portfolio like down in Myrtle?
I worked for, you probably like this. I worked for a guy, he started by just selling golf packages.
Oh, wow.
So he would just sell golf packages in Myrtle Beach and like, he would go reach out to the golf courses, whatever. Then he started to see like an opportunity and some vertical integration and just kind of started buying rental properties and some opportunities. So he started buying his own rental properties. So these, he could give you the whole deal. You could rent a golf package through him. You can also get the house rental. It's going to be this close to the golf course. He'd set your tee time. And then he started kind of expanding. He went from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and then he ended up buying like over 100 rental properties in North Carolina with an amenity center and all this stuff. And that's kind of how that job came about. I was working for him originally, needed somebody to run to the North Carolina market, which is, just right over the border from South Carolina. So I started taking that over.
So what brought you to Huntsville then?
Just this job.
Okay.
So luckily my wife is a PT, so she can kind of get a job anywhere. We moved to Myrtle Beach from Pennsylvania for her job, and then we moved here for my job, but she was able to get a job pretty quickly, so it worked out really well for us.
Were you in North or South Myrtle Beach?
Well, let me tell you, we didn't actually live in Myrtle Beach.
Okay.
Because my wife made it very clear that I wasn't allowed to say we lived in Myrtle Beach. We lived in Murrells Inlet, which is a nicer section.
Oh, okay.
Which is a nicer section. So she would shame me if I said we lived in Myrtle Beach, but people know where that is, so I say it.
Right.
So we lived in Murrells Inlet, and that's actually where I met Mabry, one of the guys on Reaching for the Bars. He was with a commercial contractor, and I was his first coach in CrossFit down there. So that's how we kind of got together.
By the way, your website and some of the homes are scrolling down the bottom left.
Homes impact people. That's very important from the builders group. We really believe that. So I appreciate you doing that slideshow.
Well, and this is just real quick because this is a very different kind of model, and I don't know what actual. This looks a lot like Oakland Springs, right? The one we just saw, that flyover.
Yeah, that's going to be some stuff from Tuscaloosa, and then some of the stuff from up here. We build, communities sometimes are very similar. So we have communities in Tuscaloosa that require like a Providence style house. So we can share a lot of the plans back and forth from Huntsville to Tuscaloosa, knowing what works and how to build them, and we can share information back and forth. It makes the build a little easier.
So was it? So how did you come across Builders Group though? Was it just a cold?
No. So this is actually a fun story because me and Mabry are still really good friends. So Mabry was in commercial construction, building hospitals. I don't know if anybody knows. That's a very stressful job. It's a real stressful job.
Well, I'm sure the
running wild
regulations and stuff, right?
He'll tell stories. It's a nightmare. It's to me, it sounds like a nightmare. So his mom had a mutual friend with one of the owners of the Builders Group.
Okay.
And so they say, hey, they're looking for a project manager up here in Huntsville to run this branch of the company. And so they reached out to Mabry. And so he left his commercial construction job, and me and him remained really tight friends. He called me several times. He was like, hey, I want to bring you to Huntsville, Alabama, to do this job. And my first reaction was, I didn't know what Huntsville was. I just knew that Alabama. I was like, I'm not moving to Alabama. I'll tell you that right now. No chance. And so he said his wife got pregnant, and we're very good friends. So he's like, listen, you're coming up for my wife's baby shower. You're at least drive around Huntsville with me, because I think it's going to change your mind. Drive around Huntsville. I'll show you some of our job sites. You can think about it. So we came up here, and me and my wife Laura are both like, oh my God, this place is crazy. He's like, that's NASA right there. And I was like, NASA? And he was like, yeah, like NASA. And I was like, oh my God. He's like, everybody here is a rocket scientist or works for this. I mean, and it's bananas. I mean, it's crazy. So we were like, he offered me the job again, and we went home and kind of looked at Laura, and I was like, I think we're going to move to Alabama. And she was like, yeah, I think we probably should. So that's kind of how it worked out. Just so it's growing up here like crazy, and there's, a lot of opportunities here.
What gave you that negative stigma?
Well, just, you always hear people from Alabama. It's like a southern rural, like, they don't have anything going on. Maybe that's not the best way to say it, but you know what I'm trying to get at. And you just don't even know there's these little pockets, like, Huntsville's crazy. I mean, it's like a different place. Mm-hmm. And just like, I think you could probably equate it similar to like somewhere like Texas is viewed as one way, and you have Austin in the middle of it, where you're like, oh, this is a different thing than it is Texas. So Huntsville kind of has that for us. And there's still some things that you can get here that are close. Like, we don't like to live in a big city, but we live in Elkmont. So we still get that kind of country feel, but still pretty close to where we work. Yeah. So that's similar to how we grew up, is we're away from the hustle and bustle, but we can still go in if we want to and kind of see what's going on.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Texas. My man here was born in Beeville.
That's right.
Beeville?
Right. Beeville, Texas.
B-E-E?
B-E-E-V-I-L-L-E. Yep.
How did it get its name? I forgot to wiki the origin.
I read that at some point way in the past. but it was like B County, and then Beeville was probably the county seat of B County. So I'm not sure. It might be they might have had honeybees. I don't know.
It seems logical.
I have no attachment other than that was the location I was born. My dad was a Navy guy. That's where he was stationed. That's where I was born, and then lived a little bit in San Diego, and then moved back to Ohio.
Okay. So the formative years were Ohio?
Yeah, Dayton, Ohio-ish. Huber Heights is the town that I grew up in. Largest brick home community in the world.
Really?
That's their claim to fame.
More than the brick we have here in Alabama?
Oh, 100%.
Wow.
We have so much brick here.
So, like, that was on the signs everywhere. So Huber Heights is the
we
largest
probably
brick
sent
home.
them the brick, too.
Yeah.
So Huber Heights was kind of like a post-World War II, like early 60s when it really started growing. It was just a township of Dayton. And in like 1980, it incorporated into a city, 80 or 81, something. I remember it was a big deal. I was in the 5th or 6th grade when that happened. It's big news.
I'm interested to know how many brick they have there.
How many brick?
Yeah, like just in general.
All the brick.
All of it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
brick is manufactured there. Is it?
it's a brick manufacturer?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that makes sense now.
And then where were you in Virginia? Where did you live there?
So Virginia, we lived in the D.C. area. So we lived in, it was just my wife and I, our oldest son at the time. We lived in Arlington, just outside of Arlington, but it's essentially Arlington. And then we moved down by Mount Vernon. We lived in a townhouse down there. And then the next year, when that lease was up, we moved on to Fort Belvoir.
Oh, wow.
I was in the Old Guard at the time. This is before I started flying. So the ones that do ceremonies in the D.C. area and funerals in Arlington and all that sort of thing.
Okay. Sorry, I had a flashback. I got to tell you something really quick.
Sure.
We were playing a baseball tournament at Fort Belvoir when I was 10. I lived in McLean at the time. And I am up to bat, and I'm playing on this all-star team, and I'm not really I'm nervous. And, like in all-stars, if you don't get a hit, you're sitting, if you're not one of the coach's favorites. So just the fact that I get to hit is a big thing. And I was a good player, but it's all-stars. And the pitcher's winding up, and he delivers the ball, and a cannon goes off.
Oh, nice.
They would shoot off these cannons at certain, not every hour, but at certain hours. It might have been 6 p.m. I mean, it scared everybody. And what? And I swing.
Yeah.
And
Swing
I
and a
miss.
miss.
And
Just
of course
a
I
bit
strike
outside.
out. You know. But I was like, really? The timing of that, right?
Yeah.
Why,
They were like, he's about to swing. Go.
why
Go,
does a
go.
cannon have to go off?
Yeah.
And then what brought you to Huntsville?
So my last assignment was here as a military guy. So I was down at Fort Rucker, Fort Novacell now is the name.
Okay.
And I was coming up. I was eligible to retire, but then I thought, well, let me. We thought about retiring. We had a small homestead farm down there, about 30 acres, and we were content down there. Enjoyed the area, but I couldn't find a job that wasn't instructing out at Fort Rucker. I kind of wanted to do something different because I'd been a test pilot for a number of years, and I was interested in continuing something along those lines in an engineering field or whatever. And there wasn't a whole lot coming up. I came up here TDY a lot from Fort Rucker to Huntsville for work, for meetings, because the organization, due to the 04 BRAC, they were BRAC'd up here. The test organization was BRAC'd up here. And we considered it, talked about it, and then decided, okay, we'll sell the place down there. We'll PCS. So I PCS'd up here, permanent change of station, military move, and moved a lot of our farm up here to and had a place up near Ardmore, not too far from where Dusty is.
I do have to say, interrupt you. that
Yeah.
We have a great episode on Adam telling that story.
Oh yeah.
If you haven't heard it, it's a fantastic story of his moving his farm. Pretty good.
I dare say it's one of the worst moves ever, and I would put that up there to anybody. I will challenge any of the listeners on Our Town podcast. Compare my move to your move, and we'll. The loser will buy a beer.
Yeah, it's a pretty horrible story.
Flat tires and then some.
Oh boy.
Dead animals.
Transmission, dead chickens. I was pulling cows. It was, yeah.
It was fun. Sounds like it's fun.
All's well that ends well.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we moved up here and got settled. I retired a year later.
Okay.
And was hired on out at the same place I was working at before as a military guy.
Oh, I know what I was going to ask you. Is Rucker is it just helicopters or is it fixed wing too? Isn't that where
all Army aviators learn to fly at Fort Rucker.
Okay.
And they also have the fixed-wing multi-engine qualification course at the Dothan Airport, which is the nearby town. The peanut capital of the world, by the way. But, yeah, everyone starts off at Fort Rucker learning how to fly rotary-wing aircraft.
Okay. We have a funny story. When we moved here, it was Christmas of 21, and he's now in college, but my son was a senior. He was halfway through his junior year.
Mm-hmm.
He was halfway through his junior year. So we move here, and luckily in Alabama, they say, great, just get a hydration test, and you can keep wrestling. And we kind of felt like maybe the rules had changed, and I kind of thought he would just be ineligible. We would move here and say sorry. But no, they're like, yeah, just go get a hydration test. I'm like, okay, where do we do that? Go over to Decatur. I said, okay. So on the drive over, I said, now, Jason, we're gonna be leaving Huntsville now, and we're gonna be going over this river in Decatur. It's gonna look a little different, and they might even talk a little different. Yeah. So sure enough, we get to the high school there. I can't remember the name of it, and it took a little while to find it because I think that what is now like the middle school used to be the high school, and then and it was just kind of odd. But we find the place and we walk in, and I think we said, "Hey, we're here for the hydration test." And it's just a good old boy, and he says to him, like, "This your first time?" And Jason's like, and I understood what he said.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm sorry, can you come again? Is this your first time? Well, and he's like,
Maybe.
He's looking at me. I'm like, I'm not helping you out.
Yeah,
He's like, can you tell me one more time? Is this your first time?
Yeah. That's great.
He's asking if this is your first time.
Yeah.
But I was like, I told you. Like, we're
He's like
not
the coach from the Water Boy.
Yeah.
Dusky O dog.
Oh man. Let's see. I wanted to. Rehoboth. You're the one who vacationed in Rehoboth, right?
Yeah, for like most of my childhood, every year we vacation there.
That is a special place in my heart.
Good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
The first beach I ever went to was Rehoboth Beach, and we I'll never forget because Delaware is the first state, right?
Yeah.
And right near the Funland,
I know what the Funland is.
you went in when whatever street that is. I don't know if they're numbered. I was like 8.
Yeah.
But I remember the Funland. It just dead ends at the boardwalk. Funland's on the right, and then some of the other fun things are on the left. And there was a number 1. That was the house number. And when you're 8, I'm like, that's the first house ever built in this country.
That's right.
This is the first state. it's and I didn't realize that wherever we lived in Virginia at the time, was some number, and I just was like, is this really the first house? Because I asked my grandparents, like, is this the first house ever? And they didn't really understand where I'm coming from. Like, it says it's number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the first state, it's got to be the first house.
It has to be.
Yeah, it's got to be. That makes sense to me.
Man, describe Rehoboth Beach to anybody who's not familiar.
I don't know how it is now. It's been a couple years since I've been there, but it is like you explain the boardwalk as it grew. First
literally board.
Yeah, it's a boardwalk. So Grotto Pizza started there.
Yeah.
So there's like 5 Grotto Pizza. Like you throw a football at standing in like the center of them. They're all over the place. So and have you ever had Grotto Pizza?
Never.
Man, it is so good. It's unbelievable.
Is it like New York pizza good?
It's better. Get out of here with New York pizza. Grotto Pizza is amazing.
Is it better than Marion's Pizza in Dayton, Ohio?
I've never had that, but yes.
Is it better than Valentina's?
Yes. Yeah.
I can guarantee
Grotto Pizza.
we need to go to Dayton.
Although Valentino's Pizza is great, but I
is.
am partial to that's just like a childhood memory.
Yeah.
So, and there's actually one the reason we went to it a lot is it's a stupid reason, but there was one pretty close to my house in Pennsylvania.
Really?
So there was a grotto there, so we used to go there, and then we would go to grotto. But there's boardwalk, and then there's like, as a kid, there's like everything you could possibly think of. There's like bumper car, there's video arcades, there's everything you could possibly think of as you walk down this boardwalk. It sits in between 2 other beaches, Dewey and Bethany Beach, and it is like the most fun boardwalk you could ever be to. And then there's like shops, like normal shops as you walk off of the boardwalk that you can walk around to. But I used to have a blast, and then I had it in my brain that it's the coolest place ever. Well, I took at the time, my girlfriend Laura, my wife now, I was like, wait till we got to go vacation at Rehoboth Beach. But when you're an adult, it's not nearly as cool. So I walked there, I was like, oh, this isn't as good as I thought it was going to be.
Well, there was also Thrasher's French fries.
We ate so many Thrasher's French fries. They're fantastic. They're so good.
I just, having gone there when I was 8 and then experiencing other beaches, in my life, it's just like, why did it have to get spoiled so early for me?
Yeah.
Because like it in my mind now, when I go to a beach, I want a Rehoboth beach. I want just a nice little boardwalk. And back then there was a speed pitch, just like you would see it at a carnival, and they were, and of course the prizes have gotten cheaper, but back then they were hard hat batting helmets of just about every major league team. You know, and I was just getting into baseball, and I'm like, man, I want the Tigers one, I want the Dodgers one, I want the Orioles one, and I everything was like seemed more reasonably priced, right? You could do more with a quarter or a dollar. I think it was $1 to throw 3 pitches. And then there was Thrasher's French Fries, and there was Grottos, and then there was the Funland and the arcade. And then, you know, at some point, I think we went to Nag's Head, Outer Banks, and like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Because there was no boardwalk, and there wasn't all these fun things. But now as an adult, I go back later to like Nag's Head as an adult, love it.
Yeah.
Because I'm in the perspective of an adult.
That's right.
But man, as I wish every child could experience what Rehoboth Beach offered.
Yeah, we'll probably take my daughter there when she gets old enough, just because it's a fun experience.
And I think the first time there was a donut shop, and I remember we're sitting in the sand. Now, there was a lot of jellyfish. I didn't like that too much. Yeah. The water was very salty at times. But someone went to get donuts, and it was like the first time I ever had like a maple donut. And that's one of those moments in life where you're like, where were you when you had your first cherry Coke or maple donut, where it just stopped me? I'm like, whoa. This is amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. It was right there in the sand at Rehoboth. Yeah.
I mean, it's such a fun place.
Now, did you go to like did you have like a beach week at your high school? Did you guys go down to Ocean City, Maryland, or anything?
When I got no. I went with my parents mostly to Rehoboth, but then when I got a little bit older, I think when I was in high school, we went to Canada 1 year. But that was only because the drinking age in Canada is very low.
That's true.
And when you're in high school, you're like, this is a pretty good idea. We should do this.
Yeah. It's a great idea.
Yes. I think we went to the beach one time, but the Canada was the big trip, like I think when we were seniors, and specifically for that reason.
Ontario?
Oh, man.
Probably go further than Toronto.
Kingston?
No. Ontario sounds like we were somewhere like that. It was a long drive from Pennsylvania, but
did you go up like 81 through? Okay, so you went through Watertown and probably into Kingston, Ontario, and there was another one. I used to live in upstate New York.
Yeah, it was a small town. This lady was willing to rent her beautiful redone barn to 15, 19-year-olds, and we were just like, this is the best day ever.
Yeah.
But it was fun. But I don't know if I'd go back now.
Yeah. Did you guys take some good beach trips?
When I was a kid?
Well, no, as a family now. As a family man with Abby here.
So I'm not a beach guy. Not a fan of the beach. But we've gone down to the coast here, the Gulf Coast, and we've gone several times. I can't remember the name of the towns. I'm so unenthused about the beach. But I go down. The kids enjoy it, so I will go down. We went to Myrtle Beach, pretty close to where in your old stomping grounds.
Oh, that was recently.
Yeah. Just this last summer. Because what we try to do now as the kids get older, now they've moved on, we try to do is plan a significant trip every couple of years where we'll go somewhere and we all try to converge because there's kids in college and try to meet there.
Yeah.
And then, but we also try to take a trip up to Kings Island near Cincinnati, Ohio.
The amusement park.
Great roller coasters. Yeah. Jen and I grew up. My wife Jen and I grew up, so we knew each other while going to high school. We didn't go to the same high school. And but Kings Island was like less than an hour drive. And so after you get your license, you get a season pass at Kings Island, and we would take trips down there all the time. So I spent a lot of time at Kings Island. We kind of forgot about it. I mean, we remembered it, but it wasn't a thing. And then we took a trip to Disney World, and the kids liked some of the rides. We're like, hey, maybe we ought to go to Kings Island sometime. And we went up there, had some Marion's Pizza. And
they have the longest wooden roller coaster. Isn't that their claim to fame?
I don't know if it still remains, but the Beast was at the time, and for several years later, was the highest, fastest, longest wooden roller coaster in the world, and it is phenomenal. I love that roller coaster. Love it.
Are you keeping track? We got the most brick homes.
Yeah.
The longest roller coaster. What was the other?
You guys got a lot of stuff going on.
The most peanuts.
That's right. The best pizza. No, that's Dothan.
Dothan's.
Yeah.
But you're going to places that are the best at something. That's like your thing.
Oh, clearly.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the sister park was King's Dominion in Virginia.
Yeah, King's Dominion. I think that came later. Kings Island grew up in this. It was spawned out of this place called Coney Island, which was along the river. Kept getting flooded. The same family, like, okay, let's do it right, because Disneyland was just getting built, and they did a whole complete theme park similar to what Disneyland, and they actually coordinated. The owners coordinated with Walt Disney himself. Like, hey, we want to do this. We want to get some ideas.
Yeah.
So they built that in like 1970s when it opened, and then it's just a thing. And then King's Dominion came later.
Yeah. Did any of you guys ever see Buffett in concert?
Jimmy Buffett.
Mm-hmm.
I saw him. Remember Hurricane Andrew?
Yeah.
I was down there in support of that, and he was down there. We went. They were doing a bunch of free concerts because everyone was, it was a big deal to clean up down there. So he did a concert, and I got to see a little bit of him.
I know he just died, but like one trip to Cincinnati, and it's funny because I forgot I went to Kings Island.
Oh, you did?
But we went there, and then we saw Jimmy Buffett like the next day.
Yeah.
And he did he said it was they said it was the Parrot City, and he did 5 shows, and it was his favorite city. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I went to Margaritaville in Myrtle Beach.
Oh, did you?
It's probably pretty close.
Yes.
Yeah, they were having fun there.
I bet.